Good morning, you guys. We've got an excellent show today. We're pretty pumped about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's the Money Talk Show with Dane, where we talk about topics relating to money, specifically crypto and real estate here. We're doing our best to be the bridge between our real estate entrepreneur buddies, our entrepreneur friends in general, and the crypto space, which we feel like is the biggest opportunity over the next couple of years, and it's not even close. Today, we're going to talk about the how to execute on all of that. It'll be a lot of fun regarding regulations and things of that nature. And everybody, welcome. We're pumped to have you here, Corey. Go ahead and take it away and intro our guest here.
Yeah, Crypto Millionaires with Corey Geary, and I'm just super stoked to be here with all you guys. Truly blessed to be on this crypto journey where we're going to use cryptocurrency as a wealth creation tool and then using real estate as a wealth preservation tool. I really believe we are in the right place at the right time with this, state of the market, with the economy and cryptocurrency. It's just going to be amazing that we can be on this journey together. And, as we're moving along this journey, we need to be very coherent of what regulations are coming upon us in the future, because an informed mind or someone who knows exactly what's going on in the regulation sector, we need to know how to address that. We need to know what actions we need to take against it. We need to know how they're attacking our ecosystem, and not many of us are headstrong into that. Not I would say most people in our niche are turning a blind eye to it. And I don't know why. I wish more people were talking about it, more people were addressing it. And our guest today is probably one of the few people in our ecosystem that is really addressing this issue. I mean, literally every single day on his show. And I watch his show, and he goes and takes the bills out and goes through line by line and explains to educate our community what's going on. And education is powerful, guys. We need to learn this stuff if we are going to use this stuff and create generational wealth. So, man, IdentityBlock, I appreciate you so much for being here today. I feel like you're the guy who's out there screaming the loudest, saying, hey, guys, we have a problem. What are we going to do about this? So, man, give us kind of a backstory about who IdentityBlock is, how you got into crypto, and maybe how you got into the RH ecosystem too, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys, for having me. Thank you, Dane. Thank you, Corey. Um, Me personally, I've been involved in crypto now a little bit more than 10 years. I registered my business, Identity Block LLC, back in 2013.
Awesome.
I thought that I remember reading the white paper, reading the word blockchain identity a couple of times, and then thinking this is going to be good. This is something. And I remember thinking, if I don't register this name, somebody will. So let me try to do this. Let me get involved and learn about crypto. Back then, I was more into like the metal markets. So I was more following guys like Peter Schiff and Robert Kiyosaki. I would go to Kiyosaki's. He used to have real estate events here in Kansas City.
Okay, yeah.
So that's where I started getting involved in this whole thing. I wanted to like flip houses. I wanted to like learn how to make other ways of making money. I was working at a nice financial institution here in Kansas City. I was also working for H&R Block in their headquarters downtown, and I felt that, especially around this time, like I would feel every time the end of the tax season was over. Now it's like, all right, well, what do I do now? Like I worked all this much, but then now I have no work, and so I was always looking for other stuff to do. I used to follow Max Kaiser. Started learning about crypto and Bitcoin from like him, Trace Mayer, Jeff
Oh,
Berwick.
wow. Oh, geez.
So yeah, so it's like I started learning from them and that side. The idea at first was just let's spread the wealth, let's spread crypto as a message, let's focus on awareness even over adoption. Because it felt that everyone back then it was just like, oh, we're gonna be rich, we need the institutional money, and then once they get here, we're gonna be like billionaires and all this stuff. So that has obviously shifted, since 2014 when they added crypto and Bitcoin as property in regards to taxes. So then that I started not liking it because I thought that it needed to be taxed more as a currency or commodity, and then they wanted to go that route. But I was like, all right, maybe they'll fix it in 2 years. Well, now it's 8, and no, they remain that way. And then I've kept learning into it. Like we were talking earlier in the green screen in the backstage. I normally wanted to learn about taxes just so know what maybe I could get away with legally. I noticed that
Sure.
that's what, yeah, like, I mean, I remember Kiyosaki always talking about debt and how to make debt work for you and how to, use all these tips and tricks. And then that's kind of what motivated me. So I think probably following Kiyosaki's methods and ideas and the whole rich dad and all that, that's probably where I've been. And then when it came to crypto, or at least when it came to Richard, sorry, and RH ecosystem, I actually started following him before Hex, because back then I used to watch a show called Bitcoin Uncensored. It was run by Chris DeRose, and I forgot his partner now. And he invited him. He invited him. It was probably May of 2017. That show is not available anymore. It's sad because it's a really, really good episode from RH. It was maybe like an hour long, but he went through everything. He went through his background. He went through what happened in Panama. He went through all his stuff, and then even though it was 2017, he was going back, teaching us about his background, how he got rich, and all the stuff that he did on his businesses. And then I remember thinking, well, this guy is different. This guy was talking about other stuff that not the crypto people back in 2017. That was all that it felt that they were talking about. It was either a partnership, institutional money, or something like that. That was just going to make us rich in 2 weeks. And he was the first person that I remember he was started talking about delayed gratification. Maybe this is what you need to do. I remember the one that clicked for me on that, specifically on that interview for him. It was that he was talking about video games. And I remember back then, I used to work at a financial institution here. I would get out at 10 or 11 o'clock at night and play video games till 3 in the morning with my friends from Puerto Rico, because that was the only way for me in the Midwest to connect back home. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, well, I'm not getting drunk in the street. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing drugs. I'm not taking this, that, the other. So I'm doing something positive.
Right.
And that wasn't the first time that it actually clicked in my brain. That I was like, whoa, if I'm doing this for 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's 21 hours, multiply that by 4 weeks. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I got like a whole 2 extra days in 1 month if I just don't do this whole PlayStation 4 thing. Back then it was PS4. I used to play Madden and all these games that they were just, you're playing every single day for hours and hours, and it just clicked. I was looking more for like a personal development type situation at that point, and then I started following him for that. Then the other stuff started happening, things that started clicking that I was like, whoa, this guy is different. Like I remember his calls in October of 2017. A lot of people remember, the 20,000 call. That for me, that was interesting because at that point we were at like maybe 4,000, 3,000 Bitcoin. We had never been over 5K, and this dude is like, oh yeah, in like 60 days we're gonna do like a 5X and da 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 da. Like I remember he said like it's gonna be $20,000 and 3 cents. I remember thinking, I was like, what the fuck is this 3 cents thing? Like what the but it got to like 19,700 or something like that. So he got so close. And that's when we start kind of paying attention. The other one that kind of clicked as well was maybe then uh, 4, 5, 6 months later, when then he goes to Ivan in February of 2020, and then he calls that the bull is dead, and then we're all like, "Shut up, dude! Like we just hit 19K the other day, we're going back up." Because I think at that point we were already at like 15 or 14K, but we were going
It
down.
was starting to, yeah.
Yeah. So anyone that was here through it wasn't 2020 that I say, it was 2018. Now that I think about it, the 2020 dump, that was later. So the
Right.
2018 dump, anyone that was in crypto 2018 remembers that it was just that. It was just every other week we were expecting something to happen and pump, and then we went from like 19K to 4 grand by the end in December of 2018, and then we're all like, "What just happened?" I thought this was it. We're going to $1 million. We're going to all this stuff. And it was Richard, the only person that I remember him on Ivan just saying, dude, the market is done. Like him talking with Ivan about TA and all this stuff. It was very like eye opening. Because back then we would follow Ivan, we would follow, Omar, Box Mine, we would just follow them like religion. And it was the first time that other people were kind of like bringing something that would kind of like ask them some real questions. And then I remember, I mean, that episode, I was probably one of the ones trolling Richard too, just being like, "No, bro, like we're going to 100K, like what are you talking about?" Because it was like February of 18,
Yeah.
so we were still like 60 days from the top in December. So everybody was just FOMOed in, ready to go. And so those two. So basically, when he calls in, then 20K when we're at like 3, and then he calls the end of the end
The
of the
pop
bull
too.
when
Right.
everyone in that chat is saying like, "No, bro, we're going to $1 million." Those were the things that I was like, all right, well, this dude is obviously not, not following the crowd, not he has his own ways of thinking, and that was valuable to me. So I kind of started following that. Then later, 2018, I got into this thing called a Bitcoin Prime. There was a thing that Red Creighton was trying to do, just kind of fork Bitcoin with Prime Coin. We have been trying Bitcoin Private, C Classic, Whale Coin. I mean, I was basically following that crowd of Red. And I remember I probably followed him all the way until like middle of April, where we can tell now at that point that the project's not going to launch. The whole fork that we were going to try to do of Bitcoin, it wasn't going to work. And then he takes a picture at Red Lobster in Puerto Rico eating some cheddar bites. And I remember thinking, whoa, like that woke me up, because I was like, this guy just basically took off with our money to Puerto Rico. And I'm here in the Midwest. He's in my
Oh, wreck.
country. Oh, dude,
Oh,
that was a wake up call for sure. So after
it's a
that,
rite
compare
of
that.
passage.
Compare
So.
that.
yep.
Compare that, if you will, to Richard and Pulse Chain right now. Like,
Ooh,
how are the
cool
two different? I'm
question.
really curious. Or are they different?
It was kind of different because at that point you were in with your own investment. So, we were buying this Prime Coin thing, and with the idea that the more that you get, the more that you're going to get in the fork. But it was us buying it. So, I mean, I think it was different in that way, where now obviously we put some money in an account and it's just there. And then we've been waiting now for 2 years. So I guess those are the difference of what happened at that point. Because that one, I mean, like I said, it was a realization that once I noticed that there was not that much work being done and all this and that and the other. So I just remember and Rhett was just showing up this place and that place. So at least, I mean, on Pulsion, we're seeing all kinds of work. We're seeing the testnet. We're seeing all
Right.
kinds of
Yep.
stuff happening. I mean, over there was just nothing. I
Huh.
mean, back then I could get into not the GitLab, the GitHub, and nothing. I mean,
Nothing.
compared to like what we have here, it just doesn't compare.
It's a
And
rite of
yeah,
passage. I think that to be successful in crypto, you have to get wrecked first before you become
true.
successful. I just feel that it's such a rite of passage. But so you found Richard Hart. You obviously
Yeah.
got into Hex, which is freaking awesome. That's got to be an absolute banger of a success story.
Yes.
And then let's kind of fast forward into like the Pulse Chain ecosystem,
Okay.
and how you shifted from like learning about taxes, everything in that manner, and then really started diving in. Why did you start diving into the regulation stuff? Why did you start like trying to go into and figure out what these laws that are coming up? What was the reasoning behind that?
Okay. So mostly Richard. I want to say probably 2018. Richard does a video about how we test, and it was the first time I've even
Oh
heard.
yes,
Yeah,
he
it was the
talks about
first
that
time.
a lot.
Yeah. So I had never heard about that stuff. I thought crypto was we put the money here, we take the Lambo over here. You know what I mean? Type of situation. So he was the first one that I started listening to on that other side, because even in 2018, 2014, when I talked to crypto taxes, even at H&R Block headquarters, they would just tell me like, no, the forms are there. We don't need to make any changes. Let the crypto people figure it out. And I remember thinking that was wrong. We had
Yeah,
one of the major tax companies, and I was like, dude, it takes us 5 minutes to do a back then I used to work at their training department, so we could do these modules that we use for training. It used to take me maybe 30 to 45 minutes to construct these, and I was like, I could make one of these, and then we're like, you know what I mean, we're gonna be like the thing for crypto people. But they never cared. They have their business. They make billions of dollars a year. They have their franchises as well, so they have all kinds of income coming in. And back then we used to also have H&R Block Bank, So they just never cared. And then me, I decided to go in through that route because, like I said, once Richard started talking about this stuff, I remember being a big deal on the first day that Hex launched, because then Richard got interviewed by Tone and all the lawyers and all this stuff. So I started following as well Sasha, that she was in that same interview right before Richard jumped in. It's just that she kind of left before. I think she kind of knew that the wrath was coming, and then she was like, "I need to get out of here." So I've been following her as well. So anyone that likes that type of content, she follows the Celsius and all the block fights and all that type of stuff.
Everything that's going on as far as the
Yeah.
legalization stuff.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of the way I decided to use the same reasons for getting into taxes, which it was more like, well, the more I know about this, the less chances of screwing up I'll have.
yeah,
And it kind of went into that. When it turned into like probably when I kicked that extra gear was probably 2020 or 2021, when I noticed that some of these regulations that they're passing are affecting my day-to-day job, and then I cannot produce some of the stuff that they're asking from me. Uh, at the end of 2021, when they passed this IIJA, this law, I cannot comply. You know what I mean? Not because I'm this biggest cypherpunk that I'm saying I'm not going to do what the government is telling me. It's just I cannot do what they're asking me. You know, they're basically telling me, for example, let's use Hex as an example. They're telling me, all right, well, you need to go to Hex as the contract, and then you need to produce 1099Bs for all your clients that staked or that used the platform. And I had to tell them, like, well, I can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not possible.
yeah. Are
And
you going to ask a code to produce
exactly.
1099?
That's exactly what I told them back in 2021. I was like, guys, this stuff that you're passing, it doesn't work. It does, like, some of us, I'm an enrolled agent. I cannot do it. So even if I wanted to, like, the closest thing I could do is probably like message Richard or something. You know what I mean? And he's gonna laugh at me.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So it's like
You want a
I
1099? He'll wipe your ass with it.
exactly.
That's about it.
You're like, RH, I have this client of mine that is asking for a 1099. But that's basically what they're asking. Even on their new reports that the SEC is coming out and the Department of Treasury calling it DeFi illicit activity and all this stuff, this is almost what they're insinuating. They're insinuating that everyone is a broker, which is the law that they approved in November of 2021. That's why I always keep focusing that we need to amend that law, because all these new proposals that are coming in are just saying, all right, well, we're going to bring you this new government agency. We're going to remove Gary Gensler out of the way. We're going to bring you this digital FinCEN. And then you're like, yeah, but I need you to fix the law first. Because if you have this law that says that everyone is a broker and that every crypto is a property, which is a security based on the 1986 tax code, that's a problem, because that means that we're only their only reason for not coming after us is because either they don't have enough people, don't have enough capital to come after us, or it's just 24 hours in a day. So they're going after all these other projects first. They're going after Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, Genesis. Bittrex just said 2 weeks ago that they're leaving the States, and they just got hit with one yesterday. Like, the SEC is like, all right, you're going to leave. Here you go. Here's your parting gift. And yeah, so it's just, that's what I think it's happening. And that's why I was so concerned through last year when everyone was just telling me, like, no, they're only going after CeFi. And I would tell them, well, they're going after CeFi because they know how much money they have. So they can just tell them, hey, Coinbase, I know that last year you made $1 billion in fees or whatever. Can I get 10% of that?
Yep.
Or BlockFi, they just gave him like a $30 million fine.
I saw that.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was like 100, because I remember at one point they were saying it was going to be like 50 million to the states, 50 million to the regulator. So it was going to be like so much money that I was like, whoa, like, so that's why I got into it. I noticed that what they were asking me I couldn't provide, even if I wanted to. And I noticed that it was going to start affecting everyone in DeFi. So I was like, all right, I need to just dive into this thing and then just start opening, the SEC regulations, investor contract regulation. I mean, I just started opening all this stuff because I noticed, whoa, it's true. We were kind of breaking securities law, meaning not this person or that person, but in general crypto, because they were applying all these laws that just kind of didn't make sense for crypto. It was almost ridiculous for some of them to even to comply.
Well, it's because they don't have an understanding of crypto, and they definitely don't have an understanding of DeFi. That's like we're a niche of a niche.
Yeah.
What is some of the? I hear you talk about really a lot of the 2024 regulations that are coming, the January of 24, and I know that's majority of the content that you're producing on your show right now. Can you touch on a lot of that stuff? I think that's the stuff that's probably the most scariest that's coming on the horizon for our industry. What are some of those things that we have to watch out for?
And also add context.
Yes.
So it'd be good to know generally where do you think we are today, and then what is coming?
Okay.
Where do you think
Awesome.
we're headed?
That's awesome. So back in 2020, 2021, Representative DeFazio out of Oregon started with these proposals to bring in, clarification. This is what they used to say, clarification all the time into crypto. Their great clarification was that they added into this law, which it was called the IIJA, or Investment in Infrastructure Jobs Act.
Okay.
I think I mixed those, but it's called IIJA. So it's Investment in Infrastructure. So the idea was we're going to bring all this money from crypto and then fix our infrastructure in the U.S. that's crumbling with all this extra money that people are wanting to speculate in crypto.
Yeah.
By then, what they passed was two specific articles that the second that I read them, and shout out to Lit because we did a video on that same day, because I told him, I was like, this is anti-DeFi, bro. Like, I don't know why people are not seeing it. But the second that you put these two together, meaning everything is a security because it's a property, and everyone's a broker, I was like, that's it. Because they're going to tell you who the brokers are. They're not just going to be like, all right, you got $10, you're a broker. They're going to be like, all right, you have to have this type of amounts and all this. So that's what created my alert on the moment in November of 2021. This was actually supposed to start January of 2023. So it was actually supposed to start already 4.5 months ago. It was such a big undertaking that they actually had to go to the Department of the Treasury and ask for Janet Yellen and her office for an extension, because they were not ready to comply. Meaning the exchanges, they didn't have the SARs, the suspicious activity reports. They didn't had most of the KYC was not done. People that, for example, back in the day, what they used to do is like they wouldn't ask you for KYC until you ask for your money. So they would have funds from people that they don't even know who the hell they are. That's how Binance used to run. That's how Coinbase used to run, probably till 2018. I want to say that's when they started getting a little more into the KYC thing. But that was the main alert, I guess, that it created for me, because what
is the importance of, if they tag everybody as a broker, like what does that mean from a tax perspective,
that's a
from
great
an SEC
question.
perspective? Why does that matter?
Great question, Dane. My concern, because of course this can change. They can say that a broker is someone that has 50 cents in their pocket and that they can log into Robinhood and that makes them a broker. So that can change at any point in time. My biggest concern is that when I got into Hex, I only had $240.
Yeah.
I had 2 Ethereum. That was it. I was able to DCA, do my thing, put in like $5,000, take that 1100x. That was my play. If this happens, that play would never happen again. Because they'll say, well, at $250, you're a moron. We need to protect you. So how can you be in crypto with $250? Like we need to help you and serve you. How the government is. So that's my biggest concern.
And you would be able to participate because the barrier of entry would be higher. Is that
not me, and not me, and then like not however many millions of people that they might not be prepared. And that part we understand, but it's a process. In 2013, 2014, I wasn't ready to be a millionaire. But later you start learning, you start producing, you start, growing, leveling up. And then that's when you can get into these places. So I think maybe if they're willing to do some type of other categories where it's not only accredited investors and having $1 million in the bank and then this much and then this and the other, then I wouldn't have a problem. Then I would just probably just shut up and then just say, great, this regulation is good, because then Jamie Dimon is going to stop talking bad about Bitcoin and actually bringing up all the technology that he's building behind the scenes and actually helping us grow the industry. But instead, he goes into news, and as he's building all this infrastructure behind the scenes, he's telling everyone, well, crypto is crap, because obviously it's not attached to FDIC little sticker.
Right.
Which is all it is. It's a sticker with you know what I mean? It with the Fed printing money behind it. So I guess, and then to answer what you guys were asking, like, where are we at this point? Well, I think they are gonna amend this. I don't know if they're going to amend the law of 2021. So I think that what they're going to do is they're going to fix that base text, where what they'll do is they'll leave the broker part, because they still want to control the on-off ramps. So obviously they're going to make sure that then Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, they are the main brokers that are dealing with crypto, and they're going to be the ones reporting onto OFAC, reporting to the Treasury Department. So if someone's using tainted coins from a hack, coins that were marked some way by government, they would do that. Then they would also send the SAR report. So anyone spending more than now $600 or whatever it is, back in the day it was 10 grand. So I think it's going to get amended because it's in their best interest. I think that what they're going to do, though, is they'll add that digital FinCEN. So what they'll do is they'll say, oh yeah, we screwed up. Sorry, we didn't meant everyone. So DeFi stakers, developers, validators, you guys are going to be okay. But here's our new buddy that's going to, you go talk to my new buddy, and then I think that could be a problem, because we've seen what the Fed has done for 110 years.
They're not in our best interest.
Exactly. Because I think that's where guys like BitBoy's proposal is failing, where his suggestion is kind of, let's build something like the Fed that we trust. He always says that we trust. And I was like, yeah, buddy, but we're going to have the control for like 3 weeks. On week 4, someone gets whacked, someone gets fired, someone this, that, the other, and then it's Jamie Dimon's cousin running the show again, or something like that, or his friend, or his neighbor, or his cousin, or someone from the Fed. And then all of a sudden, we have a digital Fed that's going to go back and look at the law and say, oh, yeah, but you guys have this law that says that everyone's a broker, and then every asset is a security. So we're going to go by that. Because right now, that's the thing. To continue adding to where we at right now, technically they can go after everyone, but then they have this clause from the Treasury Department that they're not going to go after some people, But then, of course, Janet Yellen can retire next week. Someone else can take over, and then all of a sudden they'll go back to that thing. Like, for example, I know Rags, at one point when I talked to him, he said that he thinks that maybe Gensler ends up at the Treasury. And then I'm like, well, that would suck, because if we don't fix the law then, and he goes exactly how he's been at the SEC, he's just going to be going by the book, meaning reading the law and saying, all right, well, you went 56 miles an hour. Here's your ticket.
Right.
Right. He's not going to care that you're like, oh, I'm sorry, it was just like half a mile over or something. No. You either, did you register? Are you exempt? No. Okay, here's your fine. I mean, that's how archaic of a system we're dealing with. And at least the politicians yesterday, not that I'm for any party, I think they're both in the same boat. But at least some of them were asking him some tough questions yesterday, like, bro, what are you doing?
The hearing yesterday was good. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting to see the clips and them saying, hey, like, I really liked Tom Emmer. He had a clip where he talked about how he feels like our current laws and the way the SEC is set up it's not set up to help and apply as necessarily applicable to crypto, and that we need to make a lot of changes. And I think they even went, I can't remember if it was a politician, but they even went as far as saying that we're literally pushing the industry to other nations like China or Russia. if we don't give entrepreneurs opportunities here.
It's so much money. It's so much growth that we're going to push out. What?
100%. I mean, I think that let's say that they were not to amend this, and then January 1st, all these rules start in the United States. I don't think DeFi will have a hiccup. I mean, I don't think nothing will happen to DeFi. Like we wouldn't even be able to see it a blip in the chart. And for some reason, the states are focusing on this thing where it's like, oh, we need to control the dollar, but then they put these penalties on Russia, and then Russia says, all right, well, I'll use mine. And then now they have all this extra business. So you're like, the strategies that they've been doing probably in the last 6 to 18 months, they have just not worked, and instead they're actually, like, I could tell it's like they're opening everyone else's eyes in the world to say, all right, well, we need to be kicking the dollar out of the way. So
Yeah.
I'm not in that camp of like the dollar is crashing in the next 3 months or 3 years. But if we don't fix this real soon, I wouldn't start be surprising in the next 5 years,
Right.
because I think that it's not in China's or other countries' best interest for the dollar to go from 100 to zero. And, it's in their best interest to have that in the last 50 years like we did it. We took from 71 to now, it's like 95 to 98% purchasing power, that we've lost. And I think it's in their best interest to keep it at minimum to 10,
Yeah.
because if they were to just remove the dollar in less than 10 years as the world's reserve, I don't know what would happen.
Speaking of the dollar, I know
Yes, sir.
there's some regulation or some attempt at regulation of stable coins. I know you're pretty knowledgeable in that arena. What are they trying to do? And isn't this stuff going live too in January
Yes, sir.
24?
Well, the new one that I saw, so I'm not sure if you're talking about that one that just came out a couple days or weeks ago.
When you're on
Uh,
your show, when you went
yeah,
through like
that
line
one.
by
Okay,
line.
so that new one, it's still like very new, so it didn't even had a number or nothing at that point. So it's just they called it a bill proposal. So it's just them talking to see what politicians will support it. They're trying to be a bipartisan, so it's a little easier and this less contention with that law. Me personally, I'll give you my opinion of
Let's
why I
go.
don't I
Yeah,
don't
please.
like it. By reading through that law, I think that since you mentioned Tom Emmer out of Minnesota, great dude. He's been very, very focused on
He
all the
seems
stuff
like
that's
he's
been
on it.
happening.
I don't
Yes.
know, I don't know, but from the little bit I've seen, he seems like he's one of the
Yep.
biggest advocates and most knowledgeable politicians.
Exactly. So he came up with a bill, or maybe like a month ago, to try to remove CBDCs out of the way. So make sure that
I
the
saw
Fed,
that.
yeah, to make sure that the Fed cannot launch their own coin or their own accounts directly with the citizens. Uh, the problem that I'm seeing with that is that I'm noticing that the other politicians are going to like that because that's going to keep the banks afloat. By them doing that, it kind of divides, which I still kind of like it because I just didn't want the Fed to control that part. I still wanted to have a little bit of, all right, let's banks control this part, the Fed controls that part, and then there's still a little bit of accountability.
Mm.
Um, so the only issue that I'm seeing with this is that the proposals are very similar to what Miss Cynthia Loomis, a senator out of Wyoming, did last year on her proposals, which is that they're giving way too much power to the banks with these stables. If we go back and see what happened in March of 2020, when the banks went to the White House, and not because this is Trump or this or that, the other, I'm sure they would have gone to Biden or talked to whoever was at the White House. They cut a deal to go to zero reserve requirement. So at the same time that they were on month 6 of repo loans since the end of September 2019, they were like, "Oh, everything's great." I mean, like they talked to the White House and the press and everything, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we're prepared for this, we're prepared for that." But they have already gotten trillions of dollars of repo in the last couple months. So I didn't understand why in the news they're telling me that everything's great, but in the background they're telling me that they need to be at zero reserve requirement. I was like, that just didn't make sense to me. But I know that almost on that same few days, then they brought in Steve Mnuchin. I'm sorry, Steve Mnuchin. No, but Steve Mnuchin was already in as Department of the Treasury. They brought in Brian Brooks from Circle and Coinbase into the OCC, which is the Office of the Control of the Currency. And that's when I remember thinking that's the alert, because that's the CBDC. That's a person that created USDC for Circle coming into now being the office of the control of their currency. And then maybe like not even 2 weeks into his job, he allowed the banks to be to have crypto custody. So that for me also was an alert. I remember, creating a few videos on that, because it was like, well, you can't have banks at zero reserve requirement and do crypto custody, because it's just gonna be like, giving an addict a black Amex. You know what I mean? It's gonna be like, all right, well, I'm gonna buy everything. And I mean, I think that route went almost 3 years, until like 5-6 months ago, when the OCC, FDIC, and the Fed told all the banks, hey, number one, we're not insuring any of this crypto moves that you guys are doing, and number two, you guys are way over leverage. And then, of course, that's when Silicon Valley Bank started happening and all this other stuff.
Oh,
So
boy.
I think they were seeing this coming from back then. And then that's the reasons for all this stuff that's been happening now. So that's, I guess, my issues with the stablecoin law. It's just that I think that if they're at zero reserve requirement and then they allow them to do this, what they're going to do is they can print as many coins as they want. They can rehypothecate. They can do all kinds of stuff that we're not going to be able to see, because at least with Silicon Valley Bank, we were able to see that when the rates flipped, they're like, all right, well, now you don't have money. They're taking your deposits. You're not making any money on your long term investments. Well, you're screwed. But with this, there's no way of knowing, because if one night they say, hey, I'm running out of little zeros in my computer, the Fed will say, all right, well, here's a bunch of other zeros, or oh, we're running high on inflation. Oh, that's okay, let's move a zero to the right or a zero to the left, and then we control inflation or deflation. And
Right.
the sad part is, like, nobody's paying attention to this, and they'll get away with it, because I want to say, like, a couple months ago, someone was doing surveys, and supposedly 30 to 35% of the Americans think that the dollar is backed by some portion of gold. And that part for me was scary, because
Oh,
I was like, whoa,
really?
that's not happened in years. You know
I
what I
know.
mean? Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, like what, like 100 years? And then, of course, we don't even have gold convertibility for 50 now, since 71 and Nixon. So I was like, you figure that at least, I thought that number was maybe 5%, 10%. The people would think that
The
you had
lack
to.
of education is
It's
what
just in
that
the
is.
States, we don't talk about this stuff. We don't talk about, I mean, I think that the top that you might do in school, or if you're doing some type of workshop, when I used to do my workshops, they would ask me like, hey, can you teach us how to, like, balance a checkbook, and you teach us how to do a budget, can you teach us how to do all
Yeah.
these very basic stuff? But nobody wanted to talk about inflation, nothing like that. And it's very common subject, but nobody understands it. When I used
Do
to
you,
tell them, like, yes, 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 Corey.
I was gonna ask, do you think with some of these stablecoin protocols that we got coming out in the horizon, that they'd be at risk with some of these regulations?
Yes. They're very clear on those, because it's almost like they want stablecoins being released almost by financial institutions. Like
Right.
they want that type of activity, and at least the laws that they were passing, they're requesting that. They're requesting that you have that type of requirement. So it's almost like you're trying to create your own bank. The people that are releasing stablecoins today are either going to have to be regulated, registered, or exempt, or all three. I think that the way they're trying to make it sure is like you would have to be registered, though. Like, they're not going to just exempt coins, because we have banks like Custodia and all that from Caitlin Long. They were trying to do that Abbott token, which is basically a stable coin, and they
Hmm.
were like, nope. And then when it comes to other platforms, they want to control that as well. They've been making it, it's almost like when they flipped that switch in 2017, and then before, you could, almost anyone could accept Bitcoin, and then now you had to be like a money transmitter service and all that. So you might have been transferring 40-50 bucks a Bitcoin, but then they were like, oh yeah, you need to have 100,000 Surety bond. You need to be registered with OFAC, FinCEN, this, that guy, that guy, the other. And then you're like, dude, I'm running a hot dog stand. I want to accept, like, $5, and yeah, I want to accept like $5 in Bitcoin, and they're like, no, but you're a money transmitter. So they were almost applying rules for banks, for Western Union, MoneyGram into everyday shops. That's why there's so little adoption in crypto today, because we went from 2013,
Interesting. Wow.
yeah, yeah, 2013, 2011. Back then, people would accept
They've been
even paper
suffocating
wallets.
it for the longest time. They've been wow.
2014 was a big year for crypto, because 2014, what they did was they attacked the retail guy, because they told you cannot use this, you cannot use that, you can, and 2017 was bigger as well, because they took even credit cards. But in 2014, they start adding all these rules for you to accept crypto. So now the average mom and pop shop, just it wasn't worth it to do it, because you had to have so much insurance and red tape and contacting this agency and the other agency and OFAC and FinCEN. And then, like I said, if somebody pays you, let's say you're a car dealership, and then you
Mhm.
accept Bitcoin. Well, now if it's over 10,000, then you need to also file suspicious activity report, because
Right.
you don't know where that crypto came from. So
Talk about
that's
so I
yes.
think this is a good place to head. So there's a ton of things going on, a lot to consider. Randy's on. Randy's one of our
Don't do
favorite
anything in
guys
the
in
U.S.
crypto. So yeah, I mean, like, so where does, in your opinion, where does this leave United States residents? What do people in the U.S. do? I think there's a lot. I mean, you see it a lot on Twitter and Telegram and different crypto spaces. A lot of people, and I used to be in this camp where they're like, well, but we're in DeFi though. Like they
I
can't
know, right?
see us,
Yes,
and you
yes.
can run through Monero and like have privacy. And I'm like, yeah, there's something to be said about that. But like you indicated earlier, if you need to ever offboard your money
Right.
via an exchange, well, that's where you could run into a lot of issues. Yeah, what do people in the United States do?
Yeah, they could stop you when you off ramp, and because now they're brokers, and you're like, where did you get this money from? Where's it? We see that you have a trail leading back here, like, and if
Yep.
you came from a clean wallet from Monero, they might go, well, you need to have some kind of history here before you offload here. Yeah,
There you go.
I don't know.
I mean, they're applying the same rules as with taxation. So they want to know where everything came from. They want to know fair market value, cost basis. They want to know where everything came from. Um, to answer you, I know that Randy just said even Puerto Rico. The thing with Puerto Rico is that since we are part of the U.S., basically everything that the Fed says, we got. If the president puts a law over here, it goes over there. The only thing that I would add to what Randy just mentioned, with the Act 60, Act 22, that's an accord. That's like a different thing. So I guess to what Randy's saying, if you're just going to show up in Puerto Rico with your ID, which you could do that, as a U.S. resident, you don't need a passport, nothing. You just show up and then you say, "Well, I live here now." It's
Yeah,
like I move across state line. That would affect you, like Randy's saying, because then they would just say, all right, well, you moved to Puerto Rico and then you have to accept our laws, and then we're part of the states, and then the Fed is saying this and that and the other. If you have this agreement, though, you're kind of in like a little bubble.
the X
So,
60
or
agreement.
exactly, because that one, it was designed that way. Like the governor of Puerto Rico, Luis Fortuño, back in 2012, he went to the states. He said, "We're broke, and we need some moves." And then
Right.
that's what they approved. They said, "All right, well, we're going to allow you to bring in capital that way. So that way you bring in people from outside." That they go in, they either buy properties or they create their own business or they're hiring locals, but then they're selling to outside. So you're bringing in the money, you hire people locally, but then your business comes from outside, injecting money into the
Into the
into,
economy.
into the
Yep.
economy. So
Hmm.
that was the reasoning for that. That's the only way, or the only reason. Is not just because I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, that I keep telling people go that route, because the agreement is for 15 years. And if you do it right, they'll add you another 15 years.
So I want to
So
kind of just
yes.
if 2024 comes
Okay.
and they really get strict on this broker regulation, they don't amend the law and it gets retarded. If I'm in Puerto Rico under Act 60, it doesn't pertain to me.
As of today, it won't. It's almost like you're protected. It's almost like you made this agreement, and unless they change it after January 1st of 2024, that might still continue. in the sense that that might be the only route to get out of the States with, only paying like the 4% fixed income and that type
Right.
of stuff, avoiding capital gains and that other stuff.
It's
So
crazy. It's a loophole not only from freaking taxes, but a loophole from regulation.
yeah. I mean, that's the way it is as of right now, because like I said, I can
Right,
say this
I get it. No, I
and then
get, yeah.
tomorrow the
Shit can
Puerto Rican
change for the
government
worse or
says
the
like,
better,
yes.
as we're moving along here. Like I said, if they amend it, it could make things better, just depending on. But as we're sitting right now and looking at the law, this is what we're seeing. Which
Well, the only reason that I keep mentioning Puerto Rico though is because that 15-year window. Because there's other places you could go to. Portugal, you can go to Bahamas. I've heard Panama. I've heard also uh, like other islands in the Caribbean that have really good tax situation, like Bahamas and all that stuff. But the problem is, I don't know what's going to happen in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. So I can move to Portugal today, and then they tell me, "All right, welcome," but in 2025 this changes, and then you're like, "Oh, whoa! I just made this crazy move for 2 years of benefits." And if I go to Puerto Rico, I'm locked in for 15. So that's
I
my
love
main
that.
reasoning to
You're
mention it
locked
that
in
way.
for 15 years from
Mhm.
when you move there, or when does that agreement expire?
When you move, when
Okay.
you start, you do the agreement, and they tell you, all right, you got 15 years. Here, let me read it verbatim. It says 15 years standard tax exemption grant period with potential to renegotiate an additional 15 years. So yeah, and that what covers you as of today. It says is 4% fixed income tax rate on eligible income, 100% tax exemption on capital gains, 75% exemption on property tax, 50% exemption on municipal license tax. So it's a lot of incentives that are locked in for 15 years. And
Interesting.
every other place that I check, they just tell me, sure, we're not taxing crypto today.
Right.
Or,
Well, in those other places too, I've done a lot of digging on this. My understanding is unless you're willing to give up your residency as a United States citizen, even if you go to Portugal, you go to
Mhm.
Grenada, you go to the Bahamas,
Oh, you
you're
pay like expat. Yeah.
yeah, you're still on the hook for the taxes. It doesn't exempt you from any taxes unless you are not a United States
Yeah.
resident anymore. And you guys probably follow the Coinfessions account on Twitter, but I've
Mhm.
seen a number of people post and they're like, this last bull run, I moved
Mhm.
to this other country, I gave up my citizenship, and now like I made a bad trade, I'm out of money, I'm in this country that I don't want to be in the first place. I don't have friends or family, and I've royally screwed up my life. And I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to be that guy. That sounds
That's so
awful.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
have that with Puerto Rico. You can be like, you know what? A couple years down the road, you be like, you know what? I made a bad decision. I'm going back to
Bye.
the U.S. Bye.
Exactly.
I'm
That's
going
another
back
thing I've
home.
said. Yeah. Because on that one, it's very close. So it's just a couple hours from Florida, maybe 3 hours, maybe five out of New York. Uh, that's the thing I've said, that if you don't have to renounce your citizenship and all this stuff, because great point on that one, Dane. Because you are right. If you go in the space shuttle, you're going to be paying taxes over there. So that's the thing that I like about that Accord, the Act 60 offers, because it's just, I don't know anything else that I can even lock for 5 years. I really think that in the next 5 years, all these pro crypto countries are going to have some type of switch, because even if they do appreciate, crypto business and all this stuff, they're going to be like, whoa, we're letting a lot of money in the table.
mhm, right.
And so if they're at 0%, they're probably going to be at 3 or 5. If they're at 10, they're probably at 15. So
Right.
I think that's probably what's going to start happening in all those countries. So I think the thing I like the most about Puerto Rico is that 15 years. And if you
Well,
do it right, 30.
yeah, and it makes a lot of sense from like a marketing perspective, right? If you're a marketer and you're running a funnel, you're just trying to get everybody into the top, and then as they move down through the funnel, then you're starting to profit. And so the top of the funnel is, hey, how can we get all this crypto money here, and then we can then we can move things down the funnel as we go along. So I think that makes a ton of sense. A lot of people are going to watch this stream and are going to say, I have my friends where I live. I have my family. There's no way that I could
Right.
uproot and move to Puerto Rico. And so what should those guys be paying attention to, potentially anticipating? What do you think?
For
Well, in that,
regulations, you mean, Dane?
oh,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, like how do you operate, right? So today, right, we're all excited about Pulse Chain
Mhm,
potentially being near Pulse X. There's a lot of protocols there
mhm.
that could do well, that may not. Who knows? That's all for speculation. There's a lot of people that have their hex stakes and are still building out ladders. Like where
Right.
does that leave you today? What are things that maybe you should or should not be considering in how you're building your stack moving forward?
Gotcha. Well, that's a great question because you're right. If you have family, that's a problem because well, not a problem, not a
I
problem,
got
but
family here, and I
a
don't mind
problem for
leaving
what we're
all.
A freaking family.
right. Like, just leave the family and just go to Puerto Rico by yourself. The thing is, yes, for to move to Puerto Rico, you would have to do a lot of concessions because then you would have to be as Puerto Rico, you would have to be your main hub. So if you have property, you would have to sell, move this, that, the other. Um, Yes. So for that type of investor, maybe they would have to look for other alternatives, maybe a company that's already in Puerto Rico, and then they can just kind of move a portion of their stuff that way without them having to physically be there. And that way their gains are in a different place and da 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 da. That could help a little portion, but you mentioned that the rest of the part you would have to pay the regular tax in the States. Yeah, it's
and
very
and I'm and
limited.
I'm less
Yes,
like
yes.
I'm less worried about the taxes. Like okay, let's say that you're like okay, like
Mhm.
I live where I live. I'm going to pay the
Okay,
taxes. Whatever. So I'm going to pay the taxes. I'm I'm
nice.
I'm on board with that idea. What
Mhm,
about I think many people have the fear around. Well, gosh, what happens if I buy the wrong crypto and now
mhm,
now I'm stuck with something that I can't use or I can't offboard, or how can I maintain privacy? Can I feel comfortable moving money through Monero? It
mhm,
obviously looks like we shouldn't use mixers.
mhm.
How we've seen the government handle Tor Cash. I mean, talk about
Okay,
some of those concerns.
you got it. When it comes then, if you're fine in the tax situation that you're in or jurisdiction, obviously, then maybe learn into other type of investments, like you guys mentioned, real estate, so that way you can have other deductions and other stuff
Yeah.
that you can work with. Maybe learn about tax loss harvesting, so that way you're using your own crypto investments to reduce your tax liability at the end of the year. There's other methods that you can use to then reduce those liabilities. I know you mentioned Monero. As of right now, there's no. I've been surprised because me personally, my thoughts were that in 2023 they were going to go after crypto mining as a POW, as a pollutes, and we're trying to do this whole.
Hmm.
Anyways, let's not
Green
go down that
thing.
road.
Yep.
Yes, but of course, that's what I thought they were going to go after, and then I thought they were going to go after mixers, tumblers, and privacy coins. So as of right now, there's no issues with Monero. So I mean, there's just limited places that you can buy
Is it
them because
because
what
they
we've
don't
done,
know
yeah.
about it? That's
It
odd to
could
me
be,
that
it could
Monero's
be.
not.
Um, what I think they've done though is the brokers. Most of the brokers in the U.S. they don't handle Monero. Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, some of the
Oh, that's
main
true.
ones they've
That's a
they've
good point.
removed it. So it's
But I can
almost
go
like
into
yeah,
Monero and to come back out the right way, and it's still. I'm.
yeah,
I can go into the broker with Ethereum. You know, but I could have
mhm,
went in the and there's some things where I
yeah.
could have
As of right now, that's
cleaned
all
it.
in the up and up. Yeah, I mean that's for some reason you can do that with Monero. You cannot do that with Tornado Cash.
Yeah, but yeah, if I
Even
can't
though
use
even
Tornado Cash, I go to jail.
yeah, as of right
Doesn't
now,
make
they
sense.
haven't said that. Yeah, exactly.
I
It
don't
just
think they know
doesn't.
about it.
It could be. It could be that
They
they
got
just.
to.
I
They
mean,
I
I
got to
doubt
know
it.
about
They're
it.
not that
the
smart. They're
maybe the
not
one
on
person
top
that
like
that
we
did
are.
the I know that
Mm.
the main thing is, and this is the rumor that I've used to hear, that there was a lot of politicians that had Monero. So since Monero was a little older, there was a lot of people that had it, and there was a lot of people just like,
Boom! I
don't
think
talk about
IT
Monero.
just nailed it.
I think that's what it was.
I think
Because for
ID
a
just
while,
nailed it, bro. Oh
yeah,
my
for
god.
a while they had to report all their crypto holdings and all that if you're a politician. So most of them were going through Monero and keeping like a little hidden wallet type situation. So they
Huh.
wouldn't have to like tell anyone. So I've been surprised. I don't even mention Monero in my streams at all because I was just like, I don't want anyone to know.
You just
It was just like, yeah, because it just in reality, we're not using these tools for bad. We're using these tools because maybe I wanted to pay $30 to someone. I didn't want him to see my stakes or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
I wasn't trying to hide anything. Just like, hey, my bill is $20. I don't want you to see this other stuff that I have over here.
right.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Cool. Yeah, and we've got a number of people here in the comments. My little brother, this is my brother Dylan. He's got his chiropractor set up in Texas, and he's like, "Yeah, they don't want to go to Puerto Rico." Tom says the same thing. Stuck in the contagious states for the next 5 years until my girls graduate high school. Absolutely, a lot of people in that situation. So,
Mhm.
and once again, I mean, well, in fact, you are a CPA, correct?
No, enrolled agent.
Okay, cool.
Mm.
So we'll give the qualifier as always that, nothing here is financial advice. You've got to do your own due diligence, all that type of stuff. We're just talking through potential scenarios.
Right.
You've got to go figure out your own scenario. So, go do your own research. Are there things? So obviously it makes a lot of sense to stay away from mixers. The government seems to have signaled that very clearly that that's not going to be an activity that they feel good about, and that could lead to potential problems. Currently, no problems with privacy coins. So go do
Right.
your own due diligence there, and you can determine if that's something that's good for you or not. Otherwise, I mean, it sounds like lending protocols, stable coins, be really careful there in regards to how you're utilizing your money. Are there any concerns with
Mhm.
DeFi, something like a Pulse chain that we're all excited about, or a Pulse X, Richard Hart type of stuff, Hex? Is there any problem currently? Now, once again, we
Mhm.
don't know what the future holds. That's
Right.
unknowable. But currently, it sounds like there's no problems participating in those types of things. 2024, it'll be interesting to see what changes take effect. But as of right now, in 2023, it sounds like we're clear. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Best of your knowledge.
I think that we're gonna be okay. Once January of 2024 starts, what I think they're going to have to do is all of us that we're in DeFi already, they're going to have to kind of grandfather us in, because we
Mhm.
are in. I have stakes as early as December 2019, so there was a whole 2 years before they came up with this cluster F. So they have to accommodate to me because I wasn't doing anything illegal back then. I was using their protocols. I was going through Coinbase. I was, sending it to MetaMask, going through adoption amplifier.
Mhm.
So for us, and then obviously Propulsion then was announced in 2021. So
Right.
I feel that it's the same thing. And as long as we don't take till January 1st of 2024 to launch, because at that point, I don't know if they'll say some type of other thing where they'll say, well, this thing started after this date. So people from this place cannot do this or visit that.
Mhm.
Uh, because that's what they're doing now with Tornado. With Tornado, they haven't turned off the protocol, and you can always visit it if you're outside of the states. You can use it no problem. And if you're in the states with a VPN, you can still use it. The problem that I keep telling people, and then please be careful with this that I'm about to say, is that sure the VPN is going to hide your activity at the moment, but what I think is going to happen is when you send the money to Coinbase, Kraken, or any of the off ramps that are already compliant, they'll say, "All right, well, it looks like back in the day, I'm looking at the Etherscan transactions, and by chain analysis, it looks like at some point you visited some mixers and whatnot. Here you go. Go talk to OFAC."
Mm,
So, and it might be a complete, like I said, a completely normal transaction, 20, 30, $40 that you were just trying to just keep some privacy of what you were paying, but that could just flag your account, and then you would have to go through OFAC, get that claim. It's basically like a license to to crypto. And I haven't even had a client yet uh, get one of these, so I don't know if you had to contact OFAC every time you're going to off ramp, or if it's just like a one-time deal. Hey, here's my money, because obviously we know crypto, meaning that the activity that might trigger or flag your account might be $50, but then you have another 1,000, 3,000, $1 million in that account that I don't know if it's also going to get flagged.
Yeah.
Right.
And then, of course, once it does get flagged, does that mean that you have to report every single move going forward? Or does that mean that OFAC just knows that you're the owner of that transaction? I'm sorry, of that account. And then once you off ramp, they can link the activity to the account and then that's okay.
Hmm.
Uh, so yes, I just don't know how that's going to proceed, but so
It's interesting.
far we're good. And the way I see it, even if something changes, I'm going to be one of the ones fighting this in court, because like I said, some of us, we got into this before, we put money into this before the
Right.
the law was approved in November of 2021. So
Right.
it's just it's I cannot be driving 50 miles an hour and then get a ticket ahead because they say, oh well, we just changed the speed limit to 45. You were going 5 over for all this highway. We're like, well, nobody told me,
You're going
So
5 over 10 years ago. You should not pay this
exactly. We're
fine.
like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I smoked a joint when I was in high school. Like, that's I'm sorry,
Right.
you know what
Right.
yeah, like we did it the right way. They passed this thing that makes no sense. Then they did a clarification that made no sense because their DeFi clarification thing that they did at the Treasury, they call it DeFi illicit activity report, makes no effing sense. You know what I mean? At that point, you figure that they're going to do a report that said, hey, you guys passed this law that's asking enrolled agents, CPAs, and tax pros to come up with these 1099B forms that you cannot come up with it. And then they're telling you, oh, well, if they cannot come up with it, they're not, they're not compliant. And you're like, well, that's not how it works. The
Right.
system has been working. Those protocols have been working. And if you say that since they cannot comply, you cannot use them in the states, that system is just going to go away out of the states, take their good old bucks with it.
There's a
So
lot of bucks.
yeah, that's the part that they're not seeing though, Corey. I think that it's going to take them like a good 12 to 18 months of seeing 3-4 trillion dollar crypto market in a couple of years or whatever, and then they'll say like, whoa, I think we screwed up. So I know
That's
Hong Kong is
scary.
doing that. Yeah, Hong Kong is doing that now because they have put a big old ban a couple of years back, and
And then
now
yeah.
today
Now they're like,
they're
hey,
they're coming exactly. So they're like approving all this retail information. Like today, my girl Nico shared all this stuff that it's changing as we go. So you're like, whoa, like this is they figured it out. But then the problem is that are we going to be next? Are we going to figure it out in 2025 after 2 years of, because I
pushing
think
it
that,
out.
Discretion. Yeah.
Right.
yeah, and then it could hold
That's
down the industry. Me personally, I saw the effects that adding crypto as property had in 2014, adding the bit license in 2015 had in New York, adding all this different regulations that they added in 2017, removing like-kind exchange, so you could make all these gains, or you couldn't flip them into a nice house for no taxes. So it's just all this other stuff that they keep adding, and you're like, oh, it's all for my safety. I feel so safe. Oh, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so it's just like, I mean, and in some parts, I do agree with Randy's saying. It's just like if you have the opportunity to be outside of the states, or at least a portion of your investment, you can diversify and put it on a different basket. Maybe do, because I'm not trusting any politicians. I mean, I'm hoping that
Agreed.
it's going to get amended by January 1st of 2024, but I'm ready to go to Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
right.
So
Me and Dane
yeah,
too.
Oh
there
yeah,
you
Me and
go.
Dane
we're
too.
coming. We will be there January 1 of next
Nice.
year. Yes.
There you
Yeah,
go.
we're doing the Act
Awesome.
60. We'll be down there at IdentityBlock. May. I'm going to end of
Nice.
May. He's going to in the beginning of June. To stay a month. To go around, look at the
Nice.
different communities, see how like
Beautiful.
my wife feels over here versus over here, to get kind of
Awesome.
a feel of the island, and then we'll be out there for a month or so. We'll have to hook up for coffee or
That's
whatever,
awesome. Let's do it.
and then our plan is by the end of the year to basically put our flag in the ground there and say, hey,
Nice.
we're residents here. We're doing Act 60, and
That's
move
awesome.
forward with that. Yeah, we're
That's
excited.
awesome. We should then do like a little, you know, like a little show or something. I can talk about it now if you guys want to, just very brief.
Yeah, do it.
On
Yeah.
what awesome. Then
Well, and really quick before you
yes,
do
of
jump
course.
in, so one
Mhm.
of the things that I'm keeping in the back of my mind, I think it's important that everybody does. I've talked to a bunch of people that are very fearful right now, and they're scared to participate in crypto. They're
Mm.
considering not doing anything, and I can tell you guys that the biggest opportunity is always when things are the scariest, when things aren't
Yes. When
necessarily
there's blood in the
defined.
streets. Oh yeah,
Yep,
of course. Yes,
defined
sir.
very clearly. And so you've got to determine what that exposure needs to look like for you. There will always be a place where you will be treated well in crypto. And I think it's important to remain flexible. It's like a relationship, right? If you're in a relationship and you're treated well, well, then you stay in that relationship.
Right.
If you're treated poorly, well, then you leave that
Right.
relationship. And there will be countries that will treat crypto well. We're seeing it, like you said, in Hong Kong and Japan and other countries as well. And I promise that if you are loaded to the hilt in monetary terms, you do not need to stay in a place that does not treat you well. There will be
Yeah.
plenty of options. So don't be. I
Great
don't think
point.
this is a time to be scared. I don't think it's a time to leave the market. In fact, for me and Corey, and maybe you as well, ID, we've gone heavier in the market because we feel like the
Me too.
opportunities are the
Me
greatest
too.
now, and so act accordingly for your own finances and how you want to manage that.
Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
great point. That's a great point, Dane. Yeah, don't get just fought out. I remember thinking about this maybe like 4 or 5 months ago when everyone started just saying like, "Oh, we're going to be in the bear. This might take this much. This might take another year. This might take the other." And a lot of people started to leave. And that is the time. That is the time to get educated. That is the time to just continue doing your DCA. There were so many people that were buying at 30, 40, 50 cent hex that now bought at 5, 6, 3, 2 cent hex.
We're
So
those people.
there you go. There you go.
We're
That's what I
grateful
did
for the
too.
opportunity.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's just those are the times. And then there was people that they got fought out and they were just like complaining and well I don't like hex at 20 cent. And then we're like, well, you could have bought it then at 2 and then lower that average.
Yeah.
It's just not having a portion in crypto, even if I think if you're like completely against crypto, you should still have 3% at least,
agreed.
something, because it's just if we go by Fisher effect, if we go by the fact that inflation is at 18-20% and they're telling us 6 or 7,
Yeah.
then if you're not making 8, you're not doing anything. So you
Right.
need to be you getting that money to work for you so that at least you're combating some of that cost of living and high inflation that because we don't know if inflation, they keep telling us that they're going to lower it to 2%.
What a
Oof.
bunch
I
of
think, yeah,
liars.
exactly. I think it's going to be
Yeah,
more like we're going to be fighting double-digit inflation for the next 5 to 10 years because they printed so much money. So sure, I'm sure they're going to keep coming up with super core and these other new metrics that they're coming up that they'll say 2% inflation, but then you go to the supermarket with your $20 bill and then you buy like 2 bottles of water. You know what I mean? And
seriously.
you're like, but it's 2% inflation. What's going
Right.
on? My $20 bill is not buying me that much. So that's what I think it's gonna happen. So yes, that's a great point, Dane. Yeah, have at least 3%. So if you don't like it, just get yourself a nice coin that's doing yield and put 3% of your money in it, and then at least you have a chance. Because if not, if you're in any other legacy product, I mean, even I've checked some of the high interest money markets. What they're doing now is that they limit your amount that you can put in. So basically, like they'll say, like, sure, we're gonna give you 4%, but then it's only on the first 2 grand or something. And of course, it'll be like the tiny, tiny print. So there's a lot of people that send 100 grand, and then 2% of that 100 grand is making 4%, but the other 98 grand is making like 0.00000. So that's my thinking with crypto too. Just don't get scared, don't get flooded out. Sure, be aware, be prepared for all the changes that are
Educating
coming.
ourselves is very, knowledge is power,
A
and
hundred
that's
percent.
why I'm always listening to you. I follow you very closely because I
Thank you,
feel
brother.
like you definitely are taking that education very serious
Yes.
in this part of the space, which I love because there's not enough people doing that. And so me knowing all these things makes me even more bullish about the industry.
Yes,
It makes me more, because I know what I'm getting myself into now.
exactly.
I'm confident, I'm comfortable, because me and Dane, we're kind of all in crypto. It's we're like, hey,
You're
this is where
here.
the opportunity's at. I'm gonna go where the
You're
opportunity's
here.
at, and then we'll shift when the opportunity goes somewhere else.
Exactly. I mean, I'm doing the same thing. I mean, all this time I was going to be, growing up my business and all that. And instead, I've been focusing on DCA because it's like every so often I feel like,
You're
oh, well,
like,
I
man,
can, yeah, I can spend this money and this marketing or this. Let me just DCA now, and then later I'll figure it out.
I'll figure out
Um,
right when
Yeah, it's
after
like
this.
right now, my next thing I'm doing is like I'm gonna franchise the business. I noticed that H&R Block's not doing the crypto thing. It's mostly Coinly, SendLedger, and all these little companies that we were basically training them 3 years ago. So now all of a sudden they've grown up, they have their softwares and all this stuff. Like the company that I used to work for, BitTax, we were doing some of these workshops with Spain, Peru, the IRS. So we were teaching all these people how to like basically like everything, cost basis, capital gains, and all these different moves, FIFO, LIFO, HIFO. And then I was just like, I'm looking at all these people becoming millionaires, and I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do it too,
Yeah.
because it's just Coinly was just, in my opinion, was way overcharging this year. There was people just paying even 2,000 that dollars and everything just to have their files just loaded into the system. And at that same time I was charging maybe like 400, 500, and that's me charging like $250 an hour. So at one point I thought, I was like, holy whoa, I'm charging a lot of money, and then still these people are basically charging money that it doesn't even make sense. I don't know if it's just I was very fast at processing the returns, or they're slower, because I noticed that they're charging that amount and they're also telling you that you had to wait weeks.
Mm.
So that's why this year my focus was just to teach as many people as possible to do their own taxes. So the next year they don't even have to pay me. So this year, they pay me for I had a little course of like $300, but I was like, you take this course and you can be your own tax pro next year. So next year you don't pay me my 300, but you don't pay Coinly 2,000, or you don't pay a CPA another couple thousands. Because if not, crypto taxes will be way too expensive. Uh,
Huh.
yeah,
Go
like
ahead and go ahead and shill your stuff. I think that leads in perfectly to talk about you, what services you offer, how people can
of
get a
course.
hold of you, follow you,
And
all that stuff.
and touch on the Puerto
Yes, sir.
Rico stuff. We kind
Oh,
of left
yes, yes, yeah. Let's
Oh
do that
yeah,
too.
let's go
on
with
Let's do
that.
that.
that
We'll
too.
end in fact, and we've got a few questions, so let's
Okay,
go with a
let's do
quick
that.
overview of Puerto Rico. We'll hit the questions.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for tuning in, watching the show live. We've just been vibing here, and so we'll go back, do some of the questions, and
You
then we'll
got it.
have you steal your stuff, kind of end the show.
So when it comes to Puerto Rico, I noticed that a lot of the people that are moving in, especially since 2017, since the EOS day, so that was a big move, end of 2017, 2018, a lot of people were moving down there. Um, the biggest mistake that I think people are making is they're focusing on like two or three areas. They're focusing on Condado in Old San Juan, so close to Old San Juan. It's a great area, very compact, very small area. So there's very nice properties, high rises, and all this.
Yeah.
But like I said, very compact area. The second there's a hurricane, you're gonna have water 3 feet in the street,
Hmm.
because it's just whoever built that back in the day, they just built on a sandbar outside of the airport. So it's just they turn into a really nice area and all this, but it was not meant to have all the infrastructure that it has now. Um, but since a lot of people are going in, they just raise the prices, and then everything's expensive. So I would stay away from Condado, Old San Juan, and Dorado, which I know a lot of people that are in the Hex community. Those are the areas that they're going for. They're very fancy areas, very nice areas. I'm not, talking bad in that part. It's just since they're smaller, everything is more expensive. So
Hmm.
Dorado, you would be close to the beach. It's more to like the north central part.
Mhm.
There's a lot of hotels, Hyatt, the Ritz. So all these nice hotels, and everything's more expensive. Um, Me personally, the area that I would recommend, if you like the country, then you probably want to go maybe in the middle of the island, maybe Calle or Sidra. Calle is good because the highway is right there, so past through Caguas, and you're probably in San Juan in 35, 45 minutes if there's no traffic. I mean, there's always traffic in Puerto Rico. Um, so if you're not having to travel to the metro, that's the area that I would probably focus. Me personally, my family and all that, we're in San Lorenzo, so it's close to Caguas and Calle. It's in the middle of the island, central east. Um,
Can
and
you
yes,
are you relatively close? I mean, is there areas in
Mhm.
that city to get relatively close to the beach, or are you saying that's like smack dab in the middle, you're in the
Mm,
jungle type of thing?
yeah, no, I'm in the
Okay.
middle.
Okay.
Maybe 30 minutes if I
Okay.
go to the south. So if I go to like Yabucoa or east to Macau, Palma del Mar is a really nice area. It's basically like a beach community with a bunch of villas and all that. Um, yeah, if I were to go that route, yeah, maybe like 30 minutes because those are the beaches, the beaches I like. If you want to go, if you want to go, then maybe the West Coast. The West Coast are really nice areas. If you want more surfing, maybe like Northwest. So maybe like Aguadilla,
And all these
Isabela.
areas are outside of San Juan,
Yes.
and they're all pretty safe, like for families
Yeah.
and to raise your family. And like,
Here's the deal. Puerto Rico, we have a lot of crime. Like, but the crime is very concentrated. I
Mm.
mean, we have a lot of drug crime. So as long as you don't go to Puerto Rico and say I'm going to be the new kingpin in town or something, then you're probably not going to have any problem. You're probably not ever going to see that type of crime. I mean, I remember at one point hanging out in the wrong crowds, and I would talk to my folks, and they'll be like, "What? Like that's here or that's there or whatever." And so it's almost like even in my own family, some people would not even see the type of stuff that I was seeing back then. It's now like 15 years, but um, that's how it is. You
and
know,
that
I
all that
mean,
crime's concentrated in, I
mhm.
imagine, in parts of San Juan. I
There's
remember
parts in San Juan.
we were there. They were talking
Mhm.
about a place that you don't go. That was like,
Oh, La Perla, probably.
maybe that was it. Yeah, you don't even want to. You can't even walk down there with your camera out or
No,
something like that. Like you
don't
get in
go with yeah.
trouble.
That
Uh,
is La Perla then. That's
okay,
probably where they
okay.
told you. Yeah, it's just that maybe like 2 years ago, 1 year ago, there was tourists just like taking pictures of all the stuff down there, and they kind of told them politely to please not, and then they didn't. So supposedly one of them never came back out.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, it was one of those situations
Yeah.
because it's a very well known area. Like they used to have parties and all kinds of stuff. We used to go down there and you could just buy whatever you wanted, almost like a drive-through type of situation. But when it came to that part, yeah, they were very like picky, like, hey, no pictures of this, no that, and the other, and then so yeah. I mean, but there's other areas that they have high crime. Maybe Ponce, I know at one point they were getting some issues and whatnot. But again, even on those areas, it's concentrated to maybe like I don't want to sound rude or something, but it was concentrated to the projects because there's projects in Puerto Rico that have declined to say the least. But like I said, it's almost like if you just don't go into that project, you could be next door and then you don't even know that it's happening. You just don't even know that people are selling
Yeah,
this
it's
drug
about
or
being.
that.
That's what
Mhm,
our month down there is going to be intent. That's my intent
mhm.
is
Okay.
to educate myself on those areas, and
Oh,
so that
that's easy
way,
then. Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's easy
we.
to avoid. The only issue that I see though, or at least I that I can't comment. Let me say, not issue. I can't comment on that part. Is that they have made weed legal now for medicinal, so I don't know how that's affected. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I know that back in the day, even the economy would affect crime because high. This guy's how funny. Because I'm not connecting macro with crime, but you know, high interest and all that, and then with high inflation, then it just raises crime because most people they're used to paying $10 for this or $5 for that and this and the other, and then if you
Makes
raise
sense.
price,
Yeah,
cuts your margins. Yeah, so then all of a sudden people go and then try to find that person that owes me money from last week, and then the person that called me this in high school or that type of stuff. You know what I mean? That's the type of stuff that I noticed. That when there's the economy's not going that well, then crime in Puerto Rico all of a sudden starts popping up some other places. So that's the only thing. But as far as some of the stuff that I've been seeing, let's say like in Mexico recently about like tourists being like kidnapped and that type of stuff, I've never seen that in Puerto Rico. You know, like
okay.
mostly what it is just petty crime. There is a lot of car stealing that I've noticed in the island, but it's just we have so many cars. So it's just those numbers, they can be a little inflated in the sense that, there's that many cars in the island that the numbers might show up, and then people will be like, "Whoa, that." But yeah, I mean, I think that the crime in the island is related mostly to drugs and that type of
Yeah, that's
gang related crime.
that's mainly anywhere. I
Yeah,
mean, I can go to
yeah,
places here in Phoenix and I can find all the crime I want or all the drugs I want if I know where to go. It's
yeah.
like
I mean Kansas City, and I mean I've never seen. I've been out here. I moved in '09. I've never seen a crime. I've never seen like someone like point a gun at someone or give me your car, that type of stuff. But I see the numbers, so
yeah,
I know I'm
numbers.
not. I'm not. Not like the. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
in like a top 10 bad
we
the
don't live
cities
in
in
that world, is why.
yeah, exactly. So I guess that's what it is. As long as I do my daily thing and then I don't mess around with this, that, or the other, I don't think that will be a problem. And you guys will get to see that. So the parts that I'm mentioning right now, it's mostly so that you guys can go to areas that are really nice and calm, but then you guys will be able to actually save money because those other places they just have that extra premium. They're like very touristy, glitzy type areas that you might be paying for a house that you could go to the east is Saba. I know Saba was huge for us maybe 20 years ago because we used to have the Roosevelt Roads Navy base. So then every time we used to have Marines, Navy men going over there and then just pumping that economy. And then since they closed now, I think it was like 20 years, all that area has declined, but then all that infrastructure and real estate is still there. So I mean, you can get really nice buildings, really nice apartments, ocean views for maybe 50% of what you would pay than in Dorado, Condado,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, we're definitely meeting up. I want you to give me like a roadmap of the island, where to
oh,
go and
we
see,
can
and
do
look,
that. Oh
maybe
yeah, for
stay a
sure,
night here, maybe stay a couple nights here, and I can't wait. This is gonna be
dude.
so exciting.
I would love to do that then, because like I know that at one point, every time I would tell someone, you should go to Puerto Rico, you're going to love it, this, that, the other, they would tell me, oh, yeah, I went. And then I just jumped into a cruise. So you're like, that's not really, because you land in Isla Verde in the airport and then they take you to the port. And then it's like you went to like a tiny bit of the island. And you're like, no, go to the
You
West
saw the
Coast, go to
tourist
the,
section.
yeah, exactly. You're like,
Here's
go to the
LA.
West
Here
Coast.
you drove through LA and then went to the yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I tell everyone just take a couple days, go to the West Coast, specifically the West Coast because it's so different than the Metro. The Metro is very busy. Most of the people work at the either Bayamon, Guaynabo,
Yeah,
or San Juan. So if you're in like Mayagüez, Rincon, or if you want to go even more chill area than Boquerón, which is like the south west of the island. So that's not that much of a. If you're into surfing, the water is very calm, so it's not that good for that. But if you want like a nice chill area, for
Okay.
sure.
definitely.
Yeah, let's do a follow-up show that's like
Yeah.
specific Puerto Rico. That'd be
Oh,
that'd
that'd
be
be awesome,
cool. And a
bro.
lot of our guys want to see that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
Let's
great.
do
we're getting
that.
a lot of questions now.
Really love it, love it. Oh yeah.
This is a good one. Yeah. Do you know the answer to this? What happens if you want to purchase
Mhm.
land in the U.S. while you're a resident of Puerto Rico?
Ooh, if you're under this arrangement, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm
Okay.
sure that they'll probably apply something like as long as it's your second resident or investment property or that type of stuff. I'm sure that as long as you communicate it first, because what I would make sure is that once you're in the first 15 years, I would try to contact them as much as possible because you want to make sure that you don't risk
Yeah,
not getting the next 15 years over
Mhm.
something dumb. Because I've noticed that even Peter Schiff had issues recently with his bank. And it was all, I mean, and now that he's explaining what it is, you could tell that it was all a lack of communication of something very, very simple. And he
Huh.
said that he had the funding to fix it and everything. But since it wasn't communicated, then he got his bank completely shut down and everything. So it's just over a tiny, tiny bit of something that he could have probably just move a couple funds from one account to the next, keep the bank running, and then he has no issues for the next 30 years. So that's the only thing I would do. Like I would before making that type of investment moves and that type of stuff, I would probably contact the Department of it's called Banco de Desarrollo Económico, which they're
Okay.
the ones that handle that part of the accord.
And there's plenty of optionality too. I don't know if you guys have seen on social media the soccer player that, and I'm not a big soccer guy. I don't know a lot about this, but apparently he just got divorced and his wife wanted to have half his stuff. And lo and behold, his everything that he's bought, all of
Oh,
his
I saw
money
that.
goes to his mother,
I saw
and
that.
all the assets are held in
Yeah.
her name,
She
and
get
so
nothing.
there's
Yeah.
nothing to split.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that he
Oh,
transferred. He
that's
transferred
actually
all his ownership. Yeah.
that's pretty good foresight. I thought that was interesting. So,
Wow.
like there's ways to be able to accomplish things. You could do things through like a family trust and
There you go.
have ownership. Wealthy people aren't interested in owning a lot of stuff. They're interested in the control of it. And so
There
there's
you go.
lots of ways to control things without owning them. So I would, heavily
That's a
recommend
beautiful
looking
way to say it.
into things of that nature. Dylan says, for it to count as living in Puerto Rico, does my entire family need to move? Just myself, me and my wife? That's a great question.
Yes. They do call it like you have to like make it like your domain in Puerto Rico and all that. So yeah, if you're
Is
in
there
like
a
a
way?
family,
Is there any flexibility in that? So, like for instance,
Mhm.
like Corey and I are both married. We have our families. My wife is my wife's fine. Our kids are going to be fine. But
Mine
she's
too.
like, it would be nice to have the option if I wanted to leave with me and the kids, and we
Mhm.
go home for more frequently than you. And you could meet you could spend the time and us have some more optionality. Is there a
Mhm.
way to like separate taxes and I'm the one that makes all the money anyways. Like
Mhm.
I'm the one that needs the benefit. If we filed
Gotcha.
taxes where it was, we've been married filing jointly for years, but I imagine we could separate that and it could just
Mhm.
be me filing taxes through me and the money rolls through me and all that type of stuff. Is there options like that or not really?
Year one, there was. Year one, it was so open. I think at one point, I think that the original. Now the fee is like $10,000. The original fee was like $300. You could just go open a PO box, and that was your office, your residence. They've gotten a little, like a little more strict when it
Okay.
comes to that, because I guess they noticed that a lot of people were doing that, or they would like travel on January 1st, and then they go back to some other place, and then go back on December 27th. So there was instead of spending like the 183 days, a lot of people were just doing that. There was a lot of people that would just go into the island, they just jump on a boat, and then they would go to St. Bart's or some other, you know. So that was probably the one that can still fly, because obviously, once you're in the island and then you jump on a boat and then no one's reporting where you are. Um, but technically, no, because technically they wouldn't even want you to have a property in the States. Like they want you to like have your main property in Puerto Rico and this, that, and then the other property is like a rental, or like it's just there and it's just so I'm sure that those are stuff though that can be discussed. Like as you're talking to them and all this stuff, I'm sure that you can explain like, hey, I have this situation. I have family also here or there. I know, like if you guys go by the examples of some of the influencers that we know, I know Peter Schiff and George Gammons are both located in PR. George, I see him all the time everywhere. I see him in Colombia, here, Miami, Arizona, everywhere. So he's figured it out. But I also know that George had been from before. So I think he went in on like 15 or 16,
Hmm.
where I think his, requirements might be different. So I don't
Oh,
know
interesting.
if, yeah, I don't know if yeah, no, I mean, like when he went in, I think you paid like $300. You paid, you moved to the island, paid $300, get a PO box, and then you say, all right, I'm a Puerto Rico resident now. And then
Okay.
the problem that they were having is just that then someone would just receive their mail and everything for the business in Puerto Rico, get it forwarded somewhere else, and then they weren't doing anything because there was no business in PR. They weren't even in PR residing. So there was no benefit. They were just taking the tax benefit, and that's it. But there is the 6 months, so they want you to at least be there 6 months. So I guess in that case you could do like 2 months in Puerto Rico and then 2 months somewhere else, 2 months back, 3 months somewhere else, and then back for the other four, or
Still very
something like that.
lenient, if you ask
hmm
me.
Yeah, no,
Very
I think
lenient.
I think they are. I think they are, because, like I said, I see Peter all the time going back to like um, Connecticut, where he's from, and all this stuff. And he said he still has his house over there. So I
Hmm.
know that he's figured it out. I just don't know if he's renting it or he's just saying that's
Yeah,
just his
from my
investment
understanding, if you're
property.
renting your house, if you own a
There you go.
property and you're renting it out and it's an investment property, you could keep that from when I was talking, because I'm going to try to plan on keeping my house here in Arizona, and I'm going to rent it out when I'm
here.
out there in Puerto Rico, right? That's
Me
the
too.
goal. If they have an issue with it, I can sell the property. I'm not. In fact, I don't mind selling property right now. Real estate is still on top of its bubble. It's kind of coming over top of its bubble, but we're still in that high. And I feel like we're going to be up there for a little
that's
bit.
my feeling. That's how I want to sell. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's a great time to sell. It's still a great time to sell. This is like the time to sell in real estate.
I've been thinking of selling for the last like year, but then I locked at 3.5. So I'm just like on
There's
year
something said about
3.
that. Yep.
Yeah, so I was like, man, I get like, and then since I did a nice down payment, my house is tiny, but I pay 518. So it's like I'm paying 518 at 3%, and I'm on year 3. So I was like, I could hold this thing for like 15, 20 years and pay, pay $500 for a McDonald's meal and then $500 for my mortgage. You know,
I know, right. So yeah, so I plan on keeping mine for the most part, unless they get an issue with it. But yeah, I feel like it's lenient anyways, man. All they say is, hey, be here for 6 months at a day, and whatever you want to do after that, we don't care. Like it's like that optionality and that flexibility, I think, is amazing. And they only require you, I guess, you have to be there for 3 years to say that you have met your term if you sold stuff for capital gains and stuff like that. So I mean, really, realistically, you only need to be in the island for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
To really to go through the next bull run and do what you want to do, take care what you want to take care of, and then, man, that is and you're living on an island that looks like a Hawaii, and it's a Hawaii type, and it's beautiful there. I was there. I can't wait to go scuba diving out there. I can't wait to go hiking out there. I mean, I'm a very outdoorsy type of person, and so I'm going to have a blast out there for my time.
That's awesome.
That I'm going to be on the island. It's
if you like that stuff, maybe try to check Vieques, Culebra, because all those areas that it used to be where the bases were. So there's really cool stuff to scuba dive, because they used to sink destroyers and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, I'm gonna love that. Yeah.
It's that one's going to be on the east side of the island, because we have 76 towns in the island, and then 2 towns that are tiny islands on their own. Yeah. Oh, that's messed up. I'm like in my brain, like I need to say it. I need to say it. I love them t-shirts.
Gary's going to get booted crypto to the moon. It's going to be interesting to watch, that's for sure. Yeah. Here's a good question. Do you think BRICS will be commodities backed or just a bucket of foreign currency? Seems like no central bank can operate without money printers. That's a
great point. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I really think that all this thing with BRICS, it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same issues that we have now. All they're trying to build is just trust, so they're trying to bring and build all this little, countries that are against all the stuff that the U.S. is doing. But as far as the fiat and all this stuff, they'll do the same. I hear Peter Schiff talk all the time about tokenizing gold and going back to the gold, some type of gold standard for currencies. I just don't think they will be able to. So I think it'll be just the same with a new name. They'll call it BRICS, and then there'll be a digital yuan. But as far as everything else, they'll print as much as possible. They'll control the people that way, because like we're talking right now, not many people know about the Fisher effect. So tomorrow inflation can go up to 25%, and they'll go to the bank and ask for a 5% product all day. And they're like, well, losing 20%. Yeah, but I'm making 5. You're like,
right. I agree. Yeah. This is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why doesn't crypto fall under currency trading? I doubt other countries register their currency with the SEC.
No.
Ooh. Well, it's all the rules. I mean, like, that's basically what they were doing yesterday with Gensler, and like half of the stuff that he was saying, it's like, well, my stuff qualifies for commodities, but it's just, I'm under the 1933 rules and all this stuff. So it's just, I mean, tomorrow they could fix all this stuff if they wanted to. They really could, by removing stuff. They don't need to add stuff. In my opinion, what they need to do is just remove crypto out of being property, and that would fix like a bunch of the problems that we have. It's just we have way too much regulation already. I know that people say we need more regulation so that we can fix this stuff. No, I think we need less regulation. More bad actors will come up at first. Yes, I agree. That gets exposed, then the situation can flourish, because right now all this new regulation is not going to take the bad actors out. There's still going to be people creating, rug pools and all this type of stuff. And the SEC and all the new regulators that are coming after, all they're going to do is just tell us, hey, you got rugged. Sorry, like, and we're tying your money for this much because we had to make them declare bankruptcy, or we had to like take over the exchange, or we had to. So it's just all these regulations. I hear Gensler what he says, but it's just his lips flapping, like it's just, I don't believe that he's there to help the little guy.
No.
So
Agreed.
yeah,
Agreed.
100%.
Well, Corey and I need to jump off. This has been an excellent show. Appreciate everybody tuning in live. Appreciate you, ID. Go ahead and show your stuff. How can people find you? What stuff should they be looking at?
Awesome. So I'm IdentityBlock on everywhere. So Telegram, Twitter, YouTube. I've been putting a couple videos probably since 2018. Most of them were in Spanish because my main focus was I was trying to incentivize crypto in Puerto Rico, which I did not have a good job. But we continue to do the mission and spread that good message of crypto. I can also be reached at IdentityBlock at proton.me. That's in case that you want to do more of the tax related. So if you need someone to do forensic analysis, find you transactions, if you need to do cost-based analysis, or if you're trying to file your 8949s, maybe, I know tax season is over, but if that's the type of stuff that I focus on this year, instead of doing the whole filing and everything, I was just more focused on, I got a lot of clients that their CPAs were not able to file those 8949s, or they didn't know how to do the forensics, or they couldn't find some transactions or some crypto or maybe an airdrop. So that's where I focus most this year, and it went okay.
Great.
He's a great man. Well, once again, we appreciate you. Appreciate you guys tuning in live. We will we'll be back on tomorrow, and so we'll see you guys then.
Thanks, Identity.
Later, guys.